Justin, let's get right into it. The question that you and I get asked all the time is, should I buy a home or should I wait? Is this a good time to buy? What is your response to somebody?
Well, I mean, literally, we get this question 2 or 3 times a week. I'll tell you, I get this question at church all the time. I don't know why people want to talk real estate in the middle of church, but people want to know. And you ought to ask a good high producing realtor. I mean, you know, James Wood gives a great presentation on all of this data, and it makes my head spin a little bit. But Jared and I and other realtors are really in the trenches, and I think there's a lot to be said about that. We're feeling this every day, and it's an interesting question because it can change from week to week. Sure. Frankly, I mean, the market is really it's fluid. It changes quickly, and we have spurts in this market that are really intense, and then it kind of settles back down.
Yeah.
And we know this because we have a lot of listings out there. So how many listings did we have? Showings on, how many showings do we have on that particular listing this week, and then it'll slow down a little bit. It just kind of comes in a little bit of sometimes a tidal wave, and then it just slows down. So, I mean, is it a good time to buy a home? The reality is, what is the alternative? Are you just going to continue to rent?
Yeah.
We manage 230 properties out of this office, and I'll tell you, every time there's a vacancy or every time there's a tenant that needs to renew, I mean, we are upping those rents. And we're getting those because they look around, the tenant looks around and says, should I move out? Is it worth moving out and finding another rental? It's not, because when they look around, there's very little to rent, and the prices are what we're suggesting that we raise that rent to. So is it a good time to buy? I don't know what the alternative is. Live with family? I mean, if you had the privilege of living with family for free and you could stand each other, then maybe that's a good option. But it's hard to answer because, we're used to real estate cycles, and we are just in this abnormally long uptick.
Yeah, about 8 years at this point.
I mean, you and I have figured that, and we went through this because, again, I've been in real estate for 20 years, Jared 18. So I've seen some ups and downs, but we're going 8 years. We figured that the low point of our market was the summer of 2011. I mean, you would have stolen something in the summer of 2011. And here we have been going strong for the most part. There have been some periods that have slowed down. We've been going strong for 8 years. So people are thinking, is the market going to crash? And maybe that's the question back to you. Is the market going to crash? And I don't think so. What do you think?
Well, I don't think it is either, and there's a lot of reasons here specifically in Utah why we don't think it's going to crash. It's not going to crash in the manner that it did in 2007, 2008. That had a lot to do with bad mortgages that were written at that time. The underwriting standards have been super high in the last 10 years at least, to where these mortgages are good mortgages. But some people felt a little bit of a slowdown. In fact, in the second half of 2018, there was a bit of a sales slump starting in August, and it was at 2.3% decline in August. But by the time December rolled around, we had a decline of 13.2% of home sales. That was a decrease in home sales.
We felt that. I mean, we're looking back at James's numbers and some other numbers, but I mean, we felt that.
Yeah, we did. Anecdotally, we felt that in our business. But this report is showing that prices actually continued consistently to increase during that same time period from August to December. So then we came around to the beginning of the year a little bit slower, but then the weather warmed up, the interest rates went down, and boom. I mean, our business, just like you said, tidal wave, it just kind of broke loose.
Well, it was an interesting start to 2019 because rates over the wintertime had gotten up almost to 5%, and we were nervous. In fact, as Dave Ramsey's endorsed local providers for real estate services since 2007, we're in contact with lots of other ELPs around the country, and we do webinars with them. And I'm asking these other professionals in different markets, what's your market like? And they had kind of felt that same slowdown. But, this is how the government has really sparked a lot of interest in the market over many years, and that's by manipulating some of those rates. And so if they have any control at all over mortgage rates, and I could debate that they absolutely do, and there's no doubt about it, they got those rates to lower back down, and it almost at levels we haven't seen in many, many years, and almost the lowest levels ever. I mean, had you been a really quick buyer on your feet, and for example, with an FHA loan, which FHA rates are always a little bit better than conventional rates typically, you could have gotten a 3.25% interest rate just in the last couple of months. So, in that respect, does it make it worth it to buy a home?
Well, it does, because when you buy a home, what you're buying is a 30-year fixed payment.
Right.
I mean, that's assuming you're getting a 30-year fixed rate mortgage.
Yeah.
And so while rents go up and things like that on a year-to-year basis, your mortgage payment is going to be the same. And 3.75% right now on a 30-year fix is a pretty
It's an amazing rate.
phenomenal rate. But I'm saying that's what's available right now. So from that respect, yes, it's a good time to buy.
Well, and again, interest rates are sort of a double-edged sword. I mean, obviously, it's really attractive to get a 30-year mortgage at these crazy low interest rates, but that also spikes in
Sure.
increase in the activity, and that makes an increase in the number of offers that are made on a particular listing. And so prices go up as a natural consequence of low rates.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you one thing that doesn't stay the same, and that's your rent payment. Jared just alluded to that. I mean, you get a 30-year fixed, and there will be some variation in your property taxes, and maybe your homeowner insurance goes up. But
Escrows.
if you want a little more stability in your life, it doesn't come from renting a property. You've got to buy and capitalize. I mean, if you're going to pay a high price for a home, because that's just where we're at, then you need to try to get the very best rate possible.
Yeah.
But what does it mean? What does it look like, though, if the market does turn a little bit? I mean, what does that mean if the market slows down? Because people start to panic when you say the market slows down, but it doesn't mean what people think it's going to mean.
Well, number one, I think we get back into a little more sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
So we would see in that case maybe a little more inventory on the market, so buyers would have a little more to choose from.
Mm-hmm.
Buyers are not going to be as disadvantaged as they have been in the last few years, where sellers have certainly had the upper hand.
Mm-hmm.
We'll probably see, and we're seeing it already, maybe homes being on the market a little bit longer, maybe less multiple offer situations.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of price reductions where sellers have tried to continue this trend. In 2018, the increase in prices, appreciation rate was 13.1% across Utah.
Yeah.
And so you've got sellers still trying to chase that rates and listing things and pushing the envelope all the time. They're just not going to get that. And so we're seeing price reductions.
We are.
Somewhat significant in some cases, to kind of bring it back to reality. But, a slowdown, again, if we slow down, I think it's going to be for a short period of time. If you're looking to be in a home for 1 year or 2 years, you need to look at that differently than if you're going to put down some roots and be here for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to say to a buyer, you buy a home and you sort of commit to it for a few years. There's a lot of transactional costs, and it's not just the realtor commissions. A lot of transactional costs of moving from one home to another.
Absolutely.
But when it slows down, to me, what that means is, and by the way, a lot of what we talk about really doesn't apply to, let's say, a home under $300,000. I mean, the reality is those homes go in just any market conditions that we have. But a lot of people have appreciated into that $400,000 to $500,000 range, and that still buys a beautiful home here.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people have been pushed up into those ranges, so that's kind of what we're talking about. But to me, it means just we've prepped our buyers that if there's a home that comes out, we got to have them there the same day or the next day for them to even have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd love to have some of that maybe peel back a little bit. And then longer days on market is absolutely necessary. I mean, if it doesn't sell in the first week, some sellers are thinking, what's going on? And they shouldn't be asking that question. And then here's another thing I think that's really important for sellers to understand is that potentially in the future here, you're not going to get a pass on putting your home on the market the way it is.
Yeah.
Some sellers wake up on a Monday and say, I'm going to sell my home, and on Wednesday they have it on the market. And the reality is, those in any market, those who will put their best foot forward, bringing in a handyman, touching things up, doing those projects that you've been sitting on forever are ridiculous. And by the way, one of the unique offerings that we have here at Home Basics Real Estate is a $5,000 fix up your home get ready for sale, get ready for market loan, which we do, which is actually a zero payment, zero interest for 90 days. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who find themselves with tremendous equity in their home. And that's what we base our decision on, is just the equity in your home. But they don't have any cash to fix up the home. Yeah. And it is always going to be better if you do a little bit of work on that home. And I think that's what the market's going to turn into, is sellers, you can't just put any old pile of junk on the market. You're going to have to fix it up. Because buyers, do you think buyers have just had their limit? I mean, I've got buyers that just have, it's just become ridiculous, some of the prices that we're seeing. And I agree, as a realtor, it is difficult to swallow those prices. Do you think some buyers are just kind of getting to the point where it doesn't seem worth it, doable, wise? That's how some buyers sense the market right now.
Yeah, there's some frustration out there, but we got to wrap this up. But I think a couple of things for the forecast of 2019. According to this report, we're going to see, again, some new home construction down slightly. Home sales are going to trend lower. Utah population growth, which we've led the nation over the last 8 years, is going to dip just a little bit. So what is that going to mean? I think it just means we're going to go back to a little bit of sense of normalcy. The sky is not falling. Your property values are not going to decrease. You're not going to be in negative equity situations. I think it's still going to be a strong market.
Yeah, strong overall. And again, I can't stress enough to buyers, you've got to have, you want to be successful, you have got to have all of your ducks in a row. And you got to be able to roll with the punches too. You may not get that first home. There might still be a multiple offer on there. But, buyers always say to me, it must be nice to be a seller in this market. Yeah. Which is true. But most sellers have to turn around and buy a home. And so for buyers, you got to have your ducks in a row. Sellers, you got to have a great exit strategy. And that's one of the things that you and I have always done very well, is helping people exit one home and purchase another, and try to time that. In fact, we've got a whole video just on that particular topic. You'll have to reach out to us, among other videos that we have. One in particular that's been very helpful for buyers is how to win at multiple offers in a multiple offer situation. So
yeah, we could link some of those videos up, but
yeah. Still a great market, great place to invest. Utah is just unique for so many different reasons. Geographically, we're unique. Culturally, we're unique. Economically, we're unique. Yep. So a lot to look forward to.
Well, we hope you guys have found this information helpful. A lot of this information came from, like I said, this report that was put out by the Gardner Institute, and we'll try to link that up as well to the show notes. You can review that. They really take a deep dive into a lot of different metrics. So hopefully you'll find that helpful.